Welcome back to Detroit's Morning Answer with John Anthony. Today we're getting ready to be joined by just a fire, just somebody who has so much integrity and somebody who truly, truly loves what she does and is always working for the people of Michigan. And that somebody is State Representative Ann Bollin, who represents Michigan's 49th House District, covering parts of Livingston and western Oakland counties. Representative Bollin currently serves as chair of the House Appropriations Committee. That means she wields a big stick, where she plays a central role in shaping Michigan's multi-billion-dollar budget. She has made government transparency one of her signature issues, championing reforms like House Bill 4420, which will permanently require public disclosure of all budget earmarks. Do you understand how important that is in budgeting, including the legislator who requested them and the public benefit? She has also advanced a constitutional amendment that would require a 2/3 legislative vote to pass bills during lame duck session, because lame duck session is where all the garbage bills go to pass, because no one is held accountable after they vote for it, because they're no longer in the House or the Senate, which is aiming to reduce backroom deals and increase accountability. Recently, she spearheaded House Bill 4706, the House Omnibus Budget Plan for 2025. Representative Bollin joins us today to talk about why Michigan needs a clear, more open budgeting process, how her reforms would work, and what it means for her constituents at home. Representative, welcome back to Detroit's Morning Answer.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me.
I always appreciate when you come on. Now, Representative, as chair of the House Appropriations Committee, I mean, you have enormous influence over Michigan's fiscal decisions. Why has transparency become such a personal priority for you in this role?
Because the budget has grown out of control. Government has grown out of control. And I made a commitment when I decided to run for the legislature that I wanted to come to Lansing to do something, not be something. And that included having a transparent and accountable government. And that is what we are doing with this year's budget.
I love it. Now, your district, it includes both, I would say, growing suburban communities and smaller townships. How does the call for budget transparency connect with what families in Brighton, Walled Lake, and Wixom are asking from Lansing?
Well, I think while they're, somewhat different in some are cities, some are in Oakland County, some are townships in Livingston County, really, people want value for their taxpayer dollars. They want their kids to be able to read, write, and do math. They want their streets to be safe. They want the infrastructure and the roads to finally be fixed. And they want the government to stop digging in their pockets for more. They really just want to be left alone.
Wow. Now, I did a little background on when you first came into the General Assembly. The budget was at $56.8 billion. Now, the fiscal year 2025, they're asking for $82.5 billion. Representative, that's a huge increase of $25.7 billion in just a few short years. How can Michigan sustain that spending when the revenue side, I guess the point is, it's not so much a revenue problem, it's a spending problem, correct?
Absolutely. And what we have to do is we have to reset our priorities and cut the waste, fraud, and abuse. We found over $6 billion of waste in the state budget that we are pruning back. What you will see when our final budget comes out is we had something called ghost employees that were employment positions that were approved, if you will, and money was appropriated for that weren't filled. Wow. All right. And we have in this agreement to cut that number by 2001. Which I think is a significant win for the people of Michigan. That money. So what does that mean? I mean, one, that's an abuse of the system to have that there and to not be utilizing it. On top of that, 2001, the governor had requested 900 additional full-time equivalency approvals this year. So, really in reality, I would say we cut that by almost 3,000.
Wow.
So right there, just that one example shows how important it is that we went through this process to go line by line through the budget to find these things. And what I'm very pleased is that we are putting forth a bipartisan budget that the governor, the Senate, and the House settled on, and it moves things in the right direction for the state of Michigan. Would I like to see this budget closer to that $60 billion mark you mentioned? Absolutely, but I can assure you it'll be closer to $80 billion and $90 billion. And next year we'll go at it and we'll do the same thing.
I just think about what would have happened had not the Michigan Republicans took over and had a say in protecting the taxpayers of Michigan. I mean, I'm thinking this budget would probably, because I know that what fiscal year 24 was 84 billion. I'm sure we would have pushed this into 90 billion or beyond. Correct?
Absolutely. You have to remember in the last 2 years in the Democratic trifecta, they blew through a $9 billion surplus. Billion-dollar surplus.
Wow.
All right. And so what happened is a lot of new programs, special projects, this earmark, this pork, which I will say, one of the things I'm most proud of is really transforming this earmark process in the state budget and making sure, number one, just because we disclose doesn't mean we should be giving out billions of dollars in pork.
Correct.
At all. What it does do is set us on the trajectory with the more transparency. I think people will be much more thoughtful and deliberate about what it is that we're spending money on. And quite frankly, the locals and county government also have to mind their budgets as well.
That is so true.
Can't always be coming to the state coffers.
That is so true. And I think this is why some of the bills and the constitutional amendments that you've introduced is so key and critical. House Bill 4420. I mean, you're pushing to permanently require disclosure of earmarks. Who requested them and what public benefit that served? That is huge. Why was this bill necessary, and what problem is it solving?
Well, I'll tell you, I think I somewhat kind of summarized what the problem is that the state budget just grows because of these pet projects. This is how you buy votes, right? Well, I'm not going to vote for the budget unless you give me this. Look, we need to hold our legislators accountable, and the public should demand, don't be participating in this far-reaching government handouts. Let's find solutions to the problem and better budgeting and responsibility. So that, secondly, this year, we did get the Senate to agree to a permanent change, but they did this just this week, adopted the same rules and resolution that we did in the House back in January on earmark transparencies, and included in the budget will be some of the guardrails, if you will, about how these projects are defined, how they will have to have reporting, and number one is they must be reimbursable. You are not going to get 25 or 50% of the funds that have been appropriated before you even start the project. This will be on a reimbursed basis. You have to show the receipts, prove that it is applicable to the project for which you've been funded, and that will, I think, limit the opportunities for abuse and fraud. As well.
As a chair of an appropriations committee, you do wield a lot of power. Has there ever been talk in Michigan about going to a zero-based budgeting system where it's cleared out every year, and then the institutions that you fund have to come to you to tell you why they need to receive as much money as they do? Is that ever been something that's been discussed?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we do somewhat do that. I will tell you that is the process that we took this year. Originally when I was appointed as the approach chair, I told the speaker, I told our caucus, this is how I'm going to approach the budget. And that is we're going line by line to what is constitutionally required, what is statutorily required, what is ordered by the courts, what's a priority and what's a preference. And that is also where we have been able to roll back the state budget. And let me tell you, this is just the beginning. I have another year in this role, and we're going to continue at this to make sure that, I am committed to leaving it in a better place than how I found it.
I really do love that. You've also proposed a constitutional amendment requiring 2/3 vote during the lame duck session. Now, I know how it was when I was a representative in Illinois. The lame duck is where everything that was very controversial, especially when they had a lot of their Democrat and some Republicans who would vote for bills. There's no accountability. There was a lot of abuse. There was no accountability because they were leaving. How would it practically change how legislations move in those final weeks of a term in Michigan?
Well, number one, you'd have to have that threshold, as you mentioned, the 2/3. But I think what this would do is if something is a priority for any member or any stakeholder, they're going to be working on it to get to that 50+1 threshold, if you will, which is a lot easier. This means people have to do their work beforehand. You can't hide in the dark. If you feel strongly about something, advocate for it and get it done.
I agree. Now, I do know that some lawmakers worry that too much transparency. I don't understand how you can have too much transparency, but too much transparency gives lobbyists and activists ammunition to pick apart every single line item. So here's the question: where do you draw the line between openness and efficiency?
Well, good decision making. All right. If you do your research and you understand what you're voting on, and also what you're doing in your obligation to the public to work in, the political climate, there is some merit to it. I feel, a little bit differently about some things, disclosure and some sense of privacy, if you will. I understand I took on this role. I decided to run for public. But there is such hatred for elected officials and the political violence and the rhetoric is unreal. And it just seems to be ratcheted up higher and higher, mostly by the left. Again, people just want to be left alone. And, some things should be left alone. I don't need to know what your religion is. I don't need to know who you sleep with. Some things should be private.
I love it. I really do. One of the things I think state budgets across the country during COVID, the American Rescue Plan, Michigan got 6.5 in flexible state fiscal recovery funds. And then separately, under the Coronavirus Relief Fund, the CRF, part of the CARES Act, Michigan got about $3.08 billion in restricted funds. Do you think that the influx of cash from COVID also played a part in the discrepancy of budgeting in Michigan?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this was like manna from Washington, and it was ridiculous. And the stuff that was spent, and the fact that money, it's been extremely frustrating to witness that the money was not used wisely. I've seen communities raise salaries of the elected officials, over fixing infrastructure. I've seen the schools are still crying. There are school districts that received $40,000 per pupil, and they're crying that they need money for their schools. This is mismanagement, and until the people hold their electeds accountable and stop always playing on the feelings, these are business decisions. Nobody wants to see kids go hungry. Nobody wants to see the most vulnerable hurt. We don't want to see businesses shutting their doors. Nobody wants that, right?
Yeah.
And we have to try to do the best for the most.
Amen. And and that's the lie that the left always tries to throw at Republicans, that we're trying to hurt the senior citizens, we're trying to hurt the less fortunate. That could be further from the truth. What I've seen since I've been doing radio here in Detroit, Michigan, what I've seen is, in order to ensure that the most vulnerable are taken care of, you have to fix the decades-old mismanagement that has happened here in Lansing. And until that happens, it's going to appear because you're fixing a problem that no one has tackled like you guys have tackled. Am I off on that analysis?
No, I think you're spot on. But here's what I would say. There is so much attention given to the government that is furthest away from the people, being the federal government and the state government. People need to be keeping an eye on their local government, these local transportation authorities, the local school districts, because they are under the radar. Okay, they're just off, and people aren't paying attention, and they're going to see the same ugly problems rearing their ugly heads that you see in state and federal government.
Yeah.
And so, I would say, this is somewhat of a call to action that the government that is closest to the people is most responsive, but I can tell you it can also be
Mm-hmm.
equally, if not more destructive, if we're not paying attention and it's not the people's government.
I totally agree. Speaking of that local focus, if constituents from your district or across the state of Michigan wanted to see exactly where their tax dollars are going, what tool or reform would you like to give them? Would there be an online portal, a budget dashboard, or would it be something totally else, something totally different?
Okay, so there are a couple of things, and thank you for asking that question. Number one, the state budget will be posted online, along with something that is called a fiscal analysis. And I will tell you that that is a very transparent document. And that is, you can get on that website, just Michigan House Fiscal Agency, and you will see those reports up. Secondly, the departments in this budget, I pushed hard for to have a searchable website of, kind of what their funds are coming in, funds going out, projects that are contracted through those departments, but also for the departments to put what their vision, mission, and their progress measurement tools are. Governor Rick Snyder did this. He was, the king of dashboards. He initiated those. But when Governor Whitmer came in, we got rid of all those. So this is trying to bring them back. And hopefully we will push with this. We will have a new governor after the 26th election. Hopefully the new governor will take this on to fully implement much more in line with what Governor Snyder had.
Yeah, and I think what it does is it provides a more transparent budget process where local leaders and families can see where the state promises are actually being kept. And I think that's one of the reasons why Governor Whitmer, got rid of them, because now leaders can be held responsible in real time. And I can guarantee you the voters, once they start looking at this stuff and seeing just how much waste, fraud, and abuse, and shining that light in how you spend state funds, it helps the voter understand, wait a minute, they're not doing what they say they were going to do. That's the problem, right?
Conformity in these departments in the reporting. All right, so if you're going to designate, I'll take the full-time equivalencies, these ghost employees, right? Well, what they're doing in this employee line, they're using contracted services. Some of them are seasonal workers that only work 20 hours a week, right? I want to move towards having line items. These are full-time, this is contracted services, these are seasonal workers, these are part-time, right? So things like that. So there is a common thread through all of the departments where you can actually compare the information. And, my husband has a saying, words have meaning. Say what you mean what you say.
Yes.
And that's what we're trying to do with the state budget.
Just a really quick rapid fire. Does Michigan have a public posting rule before any budget vote? Is there a 72-hour public posting rule, 48 hours? What does that exist in Lansing?
So we have posting when we do our budgets. A meeting notice has to go up so many hours beforehand, right? We're going to be going conference committee. I think it's 6 hours. You have to have 18-hour posting for a committee meeting, things like that. We are trying to move towards a more, I would say, a deeper noticing requirement. So let's say, for example, materials have to be available. Sometimes maybe the materials at least have to be available to the legislators, maybe 72 hours and the public 48 or, something like that.
Yeah. I know when I served in the General Assembly in Illinois, they would waive that process, and then they would just drop a bill on us in less than 24 hours on the last day of session. And sometimes we wouldn't get out of there till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning voting on the budget. That has to stop. Would you support a ban on last-minute, late-night budget votes?
Well, I will tell you that it is a very complicated process, and we have other things that we're working with. And this is what happened this week. We do have we had to present a balanced budget to the governor by October 1st, by the end of September 30th, okay?
Yeah.
And we have been working on the framework and negotiating this. The Democrats have stalled since July. We finally get this, and we've negotiated, and we're signing the agreements, and then they're putting pen to paper, okay? Uh-huh. And you don't want to put something out that is incomplete, but literally, as it's coming together, you don't necessarily have that opportunity to have as much time as you want. All right.
Yeah.
Well, now we have 7 days. We did what I would call, if you recall, I had the shutdown prevention plan. Well, we had to resuscitate the budget shutdown prevention plan late on September 30th. And, that wasn't anticipated. That's not what we want to do, but we had to not pass that as it was written back in the spring, but to only allow the government funding for 1 week. That was a late night change that was necessitated because of the other timelines, and in no way was it to not be transparent.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of timing.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Representative Bollin, I do know this. The people of the 49th District are so happy that you're there. But I also think the full state of Michigan should truly come to know just how involved you were in this budget process to bring it across the finish line. Thank you so much for joining us today, State Representative.
All right, thank
Ann
you.
Bollin.
Go out, make it a great day.
All right. Now, guys, you got to understand, budget transparency isn't just an issue for lawmakers in Lansing. Here's the truth about it. It's about whether families in Michigan can see clearly how their hard-earned tax dollars are being spent. And State Representative Ann Bollin her work highlights a simple truth. When government is open, accountability grows and trust follows. And we appreciate her leadership on this issue and look forward to seeing how these reforms shape Michigan's future. And with people like her there, I know Michigan is in good hands, because everything that I've seen out of these Michigan Republicans, it's always about the voter. It's always about their constituents. And they work hard to ensure they're doing the work of the people. And you cannot fault people that are working to do the work of the people. And when the process has been broken, this is what you have to understand. The process has been broken. The trust has been broken. And when you can't have transparency in how the money you take from the citizens is used, mistrust will happen. Conspiracy theories happen. That's why I love that guy Charlie LaDuff. I've watched him on Twitter. I follow him on Twitter. I follow a lot of the things that he does. A lot of people say, "Oh, no." You need Charlie LaDuffs in your life. You really do. And I know Vance is trying to work on getting me to meet him. I would really love to meet him. I like people like Charlie LaDuff who wants to keep government accountable. We have one of those people named William Kelly in Illinois. He does that. I enjoy interviewing the state reps here. You're listening to Detroit's Morning Answer. We'll be right back.